Bring to us your poetry from inspiration sought. Come join us with your images, your verses, words, and thought. From here, we'll share your balladry with those who do not know it. This platform's here for you to show the world that you're the poet.
Welcome to episode 31 of You're the Poet, the poetry podcast featuring you. I'm host Matt Burgio, and I'm here with co-host Phil Burgio. Phil, welcome.
Thank you.
Here at You're the Poet, our purpose is to share our love of poetry with the world and invite you to do the same. I want to start by saying thank you to all of our listeners who have made You're the Poet possible. We hope you enjoy the podcast and the poetry that is shared here. Our featured guest for this episode of You're the Poet is returning guest Peter Rivers, who is joining us from New York. Peter, welcome.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you.
We're glad you could join us again, and we look forward to your contribution to the episode. To start things off, I'm going to turn it over to Phil to share our classic poem for the episode. Phil?
Yeah, this is a sonnet by William Shakespeare. And Matt was kind of teasing. We did a William Shakespeare sonnet the last episode.
Couple episodes
ago, but I think Mr. Shakespeare deserves a lot more. I just have sonnet 18. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer lease has all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance of nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall dead brag thou wonders in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. William Shakespeare.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I know I was teasing you about it, but yeah, we haven't had much Shakespeare on here. I just felt like we were doing a lot of sonnets, but that's okay. And the nice thing I like about this sonnet is this sort of reminded me of when I read my sonnet back in episode 28 with Gabrielle Myers, that I said it felt like it was sort of a cliche sonnet. I think this is the sonnet I was thinking about because this is a popular Shakespeare sonnet.
Yeah, this is one I recognized from hearing before. This is quoted in movies and stuff too.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate William Shakespeare for all of his classic stuff that he did in his day, but I'll be honest, I'm just tired of him. I kind of like all the fresh age poetry with new age slang that we can actually understand. It's hard. You almost need an old vernacular dictionary just to understand kind of the way they used to talk and the way they used to play with the vowel stressing just to make it work their molds back then. And I don't know, it's kind of freeing the way that free verse nowadays is in comparison to that kind of stuff. I know it was kind of groundbreaking in their day. I like the way the new poetry kind of changed.
I did trip over some of the words there that had no idea what they were.
Yeah, that actually reminded me of, I think it was actually episode 7 with Mary Coley. Like when I was reading the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, they were saying like, yeah, some of those words, just like old school classic words. And they do. They're harder to relate to. I'm also reminded on the flip side of that, actually, I think it was your episode, Peter, talking about, being able to put some of those pop culture things into our poetry, things that our readers are going to relate to and understand. So I definitely see what you're talking about there.
Well, that's why we call this the classic section.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, there's definitely a lot of respect there because that's when we first get into poetry, that's the first immediate thing we go to. We kind of go to that classic form and structure because that's the building blocks of where poetry kind of gets its grassroots, essentially.
Oh, yeah. It reminds me of when I was studying music theory and they said the first year they'll teach you all the rules and all the structure. Then the second year they'll teach you how to break all the rules. All right. Well, from here, we're going to move to my poem for the episode. I decided for this episode just to keep it short and sweet. Anyone that's done any kind of night driving can envision this. This is called Cigarette Butt. Flick, splash, sparkle, fade. Like a short-lived firework, it jumps beneath my car. 100 sparks of flashing light. That's a soon forgotten scene. Matthew Burgio. Yes, that's just a short poem that I wrote. I used to do more night driving than I do now, although I do drive home at night coming home from work. And anytime you see someone flick that cigarette butt out the window and it hits the road and kind of sparks and blows up under their car, that was the inspiration for this poem.
I do get that image, and I like that because I drive at night often, and it totally looks like a sparkler just hitting the ground and cascading across the pavement. It's really cool.
I was telling Matt when I was a kid, sit on the front porch with my father living in Cleveland. He used to come home late from work, and he'd sit on the front porch and he'd be smoking his cigar, and we'd all wait around for it. And he would take a couple of big drags on the cigar butt before he flinged it into the street. And we would all thought it was so cool because it looked like a skyrocket. And then it would hit the ground, it burst into more little flames and embers. I remember that. It's a good childhood memory for me.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a vivid image there that you see. This poem is actually featured in some anthology that I cannot remember the name of, and I could not find it.
Excellent.
All right, from here, we're going to turn it back over to Phil to share his poem for the episode. Phil?
Okay, this poem is called Road Trip. It's one of my favorite pastimes. Load up on the jerky and coffee and take off. Road trip. I long to be on the road again. It's been so long I don't know when. The last I wandered hill and dale on asphalt road or steel rail. I yearn to travel somewhere free and wonder at new sights to see. My chariot is fit to go, all gassed up and ready to roll. No plans needed, no route to chart. I'll just wander and follow my heart. What direction is the best? North, south, east, or west? Do I visit family or friend or just see what's around the bend? To visit a place I've never been or witness things I've never seen. It doesn't matter when you hit the road, just follow the rover's unwritten code. Stop when you're tired, drink when you can, eat when you're hungry. There's really no plan. Time to plan for my next tour and pray there will be many more. Philip Burgio.
All right, thank you for sharing. Yeah, great narrative there about taking a road trip. I do love a road trip too. It's been a few years since I've had a long road trip. A couple of years there for my vacation, I would take these week-long, 2-week-long, just get in my Jeep, outfitted like a little camper, and just go. Like out to Yellowstone, out to Lake Tahoe. Always been a fan of road trips since college. I'll go anywhere.
So you did say road trip in there, but for some reason my mind went to like a rail jumper. Hopping on the rails and the rails just taking him aimlessly from place to place to spot. I don't know. That's where it took me.
Kind of a very similar thing.
Very similar thing, yeah.
We took the train here from Cincinnati all the way to Spokane, Washington on the Amtrak. That was an interesting experience, something that, I've never done, except it was definitely more limited because you were at the mercy of the path of the train. And even though you could jump off here and there, you were still kind of on a schedule and everything.
Peter, did you ever jump a freight train?
Absolutely.
Cool.
They were around where I grew up, and we used to jump on and off trains a lot.
Nice.
Dangerous. Don't try that at home, kids.
Yeah, I remember coming across a woman who had tried to jump on the train, and she didn't make it, and she broke her leg, and the bone was sticking out. She was kind of high and drunk, so I don't think she felt the pain, but still.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yikes.
All right, from here we want to move to our guest section of the episode. Peter, you're the poet. Show us what you've got.
All right. So the first poem that I have today is Ladder to My Light, and it was published recently in Invisible Poets Anthology 2 by Wheelsong Books. Just came out. So here you go. These clouds drip with honey for my eyes, a taste so gentle sweet on pillows I wait. For your vibrant kiss is a day I can't miss. Wrap me up in the blanket of your sky, melt me into your embrace. Take me away to your secret galaxy of stars. By Peter Rivers.
Thank you. I like that one. I kind of like the simplicity and the shortness of it too. Now, is this just a free verse poem, or were you following a certain form here? Or?
No, it was just a free verse poem. To be honest, I think I was looking at a photo prompt or maybe a screensaver at the time, and it was just kind of where my mind wandered and just kind of went in that direction, and I penned it.
I like that line, clouds drip with honey for my eyes. I like that.
Yeah, there's a few good lines in there. I also like that for your vibrant kiss is a day I can't miss. A lot of good imagery there, and I kind of like that whole wrap up in the sky and the clouds and that whole being up there.
I like to get metaphorical with my poetry and kind of get a little circular with it and take you around your images.
Yeah, and I think you do a great job with that. I know we were talking before the episode started about your book, Storming Oblivion. I read that as one of my books last year, and there was a lot of good poetry in there, and I do see a lot of that use of the metaphor and things in there, and you do a great job with that.
Thank you. So this next poem that I'm going to read is called Express Prayer, Take Me There. That's actually from my book, Storming Oblivion. How do I tell you I'm angry and sad you left me here? If I waited and sent it express on a prayer, would it get there? I've cried 1,000 times. Not once did I think you could hear. You were the one person who told me I was good. You actually understood. Now I anxiously pace this busted up place, the reverie of your memory. If I tied a cup to a kite and flew it into the sun, could I listen to you holding the other one? I hoped you would come to me in a dream to let me know things would be all right. I sure wish it would happen tonight. For that matter, any night would be all right. I watched you struggle and I watched you strain. Now that pain walks around in my brain. We were so close, you chose me to be the one. I had to snuff out your light when your time had come. I embraced that task, even though it broke a piece of me. I'd have done anything for you. I had to prove it, you see. I helped you go out your way. Ultimately, you had your say. I get so mad when people tell me time heals all things. It really doesn't. We just wait around until our bell rings. The other one folks say, you have to fill that hole. That's what you do. In reality, what we do is we drive around a while, avoiding the massive void. We close doors on it. We toss away the key. We pile things in front, like it's lost to history. I'd like to say, this is just heavy sadness. It's more than that. It's heartache madness. You know, as sad as I am, I got to fill your last cup. I was the last one to pick you up. I got to watch your last dream. I held your hand while you screamed. I baked a cake for a break. I gave it to your doctor, for God's sake. I told you someday is the day, but today, it's not that day. I painted your toes and rubbed your feet. I fed you the last thing you ever had to eat. I tucked you in every time with a smile. I even watched those hillbillies a while. I made you promises I intend to keep. I watched you live through hell to fight forever sleep. I think the saddest part to say, I had to watch you drift off anyway. P.S. I'm proud too. I had a mom like you. By Peter Rivers.
All right. Thank you for sharing. Bringing the tears over here on both sides of this computer.
Wow, that really hit home to me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it choked me up a little too.
Yeah, I kind of sensed that.
I mean, that's just the.
But yeah, Matt lost his mom, I lost my wife, and it just was just like that.
This is one of the poems I remember when I was reading Storming Oblivion. As Phil said, I lost my mom in April of 22. And I will say a lot of this probably hits more home to Phil as he was her primary caretaker. And a lot of these things that you describe in here are things that I'm sure he went through and had to deal with.
I wasn't a caregiver. I was a devoted husband.
I love that.
Well, that's true, though. I mean, you talk about setting the example. Couldn't ask for a better example in that for life. Yeah, I was living here with my parents when my mom was going through all this. And my dad was the best. He was a trooper. He was there for everything and so supportive. You know, she had pancreatic cancer, and so we just kind of watched her fade away with that. But yeah, so this one definitely hit home.
Yeah, cancer definitely sucks, and most people look away.
Yeah, and so I appreciate you sharing this with us. I know that's hard to express, someone having gone through that. So thank you for sharing this one.
Yeah, thank you. It was a good one.
Appreciate that very much.
And think about time heals all things. No, it doesn't.
Nope.
Yeah, those were some of the lines that hit me the most. Or, you know, people talk about filling that hole or time heals things. And I'll give you credit. I have all these poetic ideas and thoughts that I've got written down for poems I want to write in honor of my mom. But here we are about almost going on 3 years later, and I still haven't been able to. I just can't get myself to focus on that and to sit down and write those poems yet. So,
Well, you just watch the teardrops hit your paper.
right.
Hey, your heart to hand highway will tell you when it's ready.
Yeah.
Right.
Got another one for us?
I do. Next up, I have Static Symphony. And this was recently just published in Invisible Poet Anthology 3 from Wheelsong Books. In a world of stale notes, constant ears that are burning, clumsy life sounds and melodies we are learning. Your failure echoes hum like a symphony. Your routine static has a buzz like a symphony. Your public displays of spite sound like a symphony. I do what I want kind of world, all one-man bands, no symphony. Everyone, every country, global pandemic, psychotic screams, our gifted symphony. Is this all we are made of? Is this our sweetest symphony? That's about it. How do we conduct your symphony? By Peter Rivers.
All right. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Some good sentiments there about how our world is running. I like that whole all one-man bands, no symphony. You know, that we're not really working in conjunction and working in symphony together.
I appreciate that. I don't know where my mind was that day. It was just, I was thinking about the way AI poems start, like in the blah, 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 in the world of such and such. And then they constantly use the word symphony. So I think I was in a gag kind of frame of mind in my mind
Ah,
where I was trying to create a poem that was kind of like drilling the AI type of stuff. But then it turned out so cool because it was just like relatable to the life that we have. And I don't know, it turned out great.
So yeah, playing the old joke on the AI, huh?
Yeah.
A lot of that running rampant online right now.
I don't think I ever read an AI poem or didn't know I was reading an AI poem.
Oh, it's soulless.
I'll say because I'm not against cliches, but shallow cliches and the things don't make sense. Like maybe the grammar's a little off, or like it's a missed cliche or a missed metaphor that doesn't really make sense. You know, where the AI tries to put it together and
Brutal.
yeah,
Absolutely brutal.
There should be a law, right?
right. Well, and there's people. Thankfully, people on a lot of these Facebook groups are trying to crack down on it, but then you don't want to be cracking down on someone that didn't write an AI poem and embarrass them.
There are just rudimentary poets that follow exact rhyme and in a very rudimentary structure. And I don't want to say that beginning stuff is boring per se, but it's just done a bunch of times. And that's what AI copies.
Right.
That tend to get you accused of it. You know, you got to break out of the box a little bit.
You know, because the online world is an international world and a global world. Yeah, I've noticed that we do have poets on there that are writing poems in not their primary language. You know, so if they're writing English poems, but maybe English is a second language or third language, I think you'll see some of that creep in there where it looks more basic and looks more that AI generated because they're
The translation.
yeah, the translation and the fact that they're trying to follow our English forms and things,
Sure.
even if it's not translated, but just in, you know, just in their mind and how they're putting it together. So, Peter, since we talked last on You're the Poet, tell us what you've been up to in the poetry world since then.
Well, like I said, I've been working on some manuscripts of some new books. I actually did have another poem if you want.
Yeah.
It's kind of a fun one. It's something I just recently wrote.
Good. We need that. We need to light something.
Yeah. So I actually kind of found out through my sister, and it kind of lit me up that I had some poetic roots, I guess you could say. And she does like the genealogy stuff. And I had some poetic blood that she found out, like cousins to Emily Dickinson and Edgar Allan Poe and Nathaniel Hawthorne. So that was pretty interesting to me.
Oh, that's cool.
Lit me up nicely. So I had a couple of references in some of my poems that I just referenced that stuff. So this one I just wrote called The Patchwork Poet. Shotgun, Shatterscott heart, pumping the shrapnel, tearing it apart. Duck walking with a wiggle and a waddle. Head heavy tuck, tuxedo-style turtle. I'm Frankenstein's poet. Corkscrew screws covering my coconut cranium. I've got a frog in my throat. Can't stop this rambling ribbit. I stole the rotten arms off the corpse of Walt Whitman. Rank! The cloth has moths, all tattered and falling apart. I'm all skin and bones. Even with cologne, I'm a special kind of stank. I took my eyes from Edgar Allan Poe. It's not my fault. The ravens told me so. Well, while you're at it, take the telltale heart. Your brainless ass gave us a shotgun jumpstart. Don't you blame this on me. I got donated a perfectly good brain from an invisible poet. It doesn't take a genius to see you screwed up the transplant, and I just know it. I tried to make the perfect experimental poetry bard. Maybe I was trying way, way too hard. By Peter Rivers.
Frankenstein poet. That sounds like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that whole concept of sort of being put together from all these different aspects or all these different poets. And I like a lot of the references you have in there as well.
Thank you. That's what I really like to do is just push the boundaries of style. And when you're a beginner poet, you're just always concentrated on trying to get into a form and mastering a form and doing it really well. And you put so much stress on yourself as a poet, as a beginner, to just try to do these things in this box. And then once you've done it 1,000 times and you've exhausted all that form poetry, you really just kind of circle right back to a place where you just want to break all of that form again. And you're literally sitting right in the back same seat as you were before, except you don't have all the pressure anymore because you've done it all, but you're still essentially doing the same exact thing. So if I could tell any poets out there, take some of that pressure off, because after you get through all the form discovery, you're going to throw it out the window and break it anyway. So just take the pressure off and express. That's really what it's down to.
I kind of like the form kind of thing around me. For me, it's like a puzzle. I'll sit there and it's like, I'm not stressed about it. I'm just like writing it like it's a puzzle. What do I do here? And doing this, doing that. I've written free verse. I've written all kinds.
Mhm.
Like I said, I view the other, like the form poetry, as a puzzle.
I like that.
I like doing it.
Yeah, I definitely like the variety. And I think it depends on what you were trying to say in the poem, too. And I think it's actually one of the things Steve Wheeler was talking about when he was on, that certain poems, like he was mentioning the one that I read on there, which was free verse, that style or that form really lent itself to that poem. You know, it kind of gives you more of that freedom to express when you're kind of like don't have those boundaries in that structured form where you can kind of say a lot more.
No, sure.
Though even in the structured form, I was just thinking about James Bryant in episode 30, which isn't out yet, but will be by the time this comes out.
I know his work.
He was talking about he was writing in the sonnet, but then he wanted to be able to say more than just what like the 10 syllables would give him. So he decided to write a poem where every line had 15 syllables. And I kind of thought that was a unique way to be like, all right, well, let's still keep it a structured form, but let's expand on it and give us more room to say what we want to say.
Yeah, that's really great.
And don't get us wrong, I know you've definitely written in some of the forms. We've read some of your triolets and things.
Mhm.
I think it's good to have those building blocks, but then important to expand on them as well and to kind of not keep yourself in that box.
Yeah, I think if poetry starts stressing you out, you're not doing it right.
Oh, it's supposed to be fun. It's heart speak, really.
Right. I like that heart speak. Yeah, it is.
Definitely. All right, Peter, was there anything else you'd like to say before we move on about the poetry world or anything you've got going on in the poetry world?
I certainly do love form poetry. I wasn't trying to say that because,
Oh, I understand. I understand. Yeah.
yeah, because even in my books, like you were saying, I do represent form poetry as well because you want to have a variation. You don't want to keep it boring and just be all free verse or all one thing or that. Try different things, dabble, experiment, and just be you. The best part of poetry. It's just all about showing everybody you and showing you the best parts of you.
Definitely.
Peter, let us know what your book is again, or the latest one.
My book that's out now is Storming Oblivion from Wheelsong Books. And I was also involved in the Invisible Poets Anthology 2 and 3 that just came out a few days ago, also available on Amazon.
Okay, we'd like to promote that stuff.
We'll definitely include links to all of those when we put out the notice for the episode. All right, we have a little bit of feedback for this episode. And for this feedback, I'm going to turn it over to Phil.
Last episode, our number one fan, Mariah S., was on. She spoke highly of me. I was flattered, a bit embarrassed, and I wrote her a haiku. My number one fan, Mariah, is from Athens. Thanks for your support.
All right, thank you for that feedback. And again, Mariah, thank you for all of your feedback throughout these episodes. All right, as we wrap things up, we want to let our listeners know we are grateful that you've taken the time to tune in. We hope you're enjoying the poetry shared here, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with others. Now that the Year of the Poet community is expanding at a rapid rate, we have set up a patron site for those who would like to show their support for Year of the Poet. You can find us on buymeacoffee.com/yearofthepoet. Thank you for your support as we continue to grow. If you've written any poetry and you want to share it here, whether you just have an interest in poetry, consider yourself an amateur poet, or are a professional poet with published works, contact us to be a guest on a future episode. Please check out the website at www.you'rethepoet.com, where you can find info about the podcast and the episodes, as well as a frequently asked questions page about being a guest. Follow us on Facebook for updates and info, and send us an email to host@you'rethepoet.com for feedback or questions about the podcast and how to be our next guest. Also, we've been working to put up our podcast episodes on YouTube. They're still just audio, but you can find them there under You're the Poet Podcast. And we're also working to build an Instagram presence as You're the Poet Podcast as well, so please follow us there. Until next time, Phil, thank you for joining us.
Anytime.
Peter, thanks for coming back and being our guest again.
Cheers. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Goodbye.